Coming and going. Coming and going is often what Sunday mornings can feel like. We who are here to worship are subject to a busyness that carries over from the lives we lead. It can almost feel like there should be a warning from the Surgeon General that states working 7 days a week is hazardous to your health. Do you remember the days of blue laws? I'm calling you out on your date, right? The blue laws, these were the secular laws that forced the closing of most, maybe even all, businesses on Sundays. Or maybe you grew up in a family where your parents and your grandparents had their own blue laws for the weekend, for Sunday. Going to church, well, sharing a meal, those were very permissible things. Going to the movies, playing cards, were not permissible. Blue laws were a secular attempt at forcing the culture to follow what would have been seen as a core Christian value, keeping the Sabbath day, ceasing all work and resting on Sunday. If there was ever a time we needed to be told to chill out, to rest, to relax, to exhale, it's right about now. So filled with anxiety are we that we have to take medicine just to sleep through the night. We feel overwhelmed, out of sorts, disinclined, numb. The never-ending parade of news leaves us wondering, what can we believe and what can we not believe? What is misinformation and what is fact? The very foundation of truth has been brought into question. I laughed out loud the first time I saw History of the World, Part 1 and Part 2 by Mel Brooks. I'm sure you've all read that, yes, or seen it on the movie. I laughed out loud the first time I saw it because there was Mel Brooks dressed as Moses, receiving 3 stone tablets and declaring these 15 commandments, only to have one tablet slip out of his hands and shatter on the ground. Without missing a beat, Brooks announces these 10 commandments. And just what is it that you ask? What is that, you ask? What could it be? It's the politics of us versus them. It's our favorite pastime now, it seems. That we are even fueled by the latest tool of isolating dismemberment. And what is that we speak of? It's dismembering. The ominous anonymous scour social media in a search for ways to sublimate and divert our attention, like when 15 commandments become 10. Of course, we all know that the whole idea of a day of rest comes from our hard-working, creating God. We didn't dream it up. It's been given to us. The 10 Commandments pick up on this and declare the seventh day to be holy, to be a Sabbath day, a day not only of rest for the individual, but for the whole community. In our gospel lesson, Jesus is tired. Jesus is tired. He's beat. He's exhausted. The crowd that followed Jesus is also tired, beat, and exhausted. But Jesus had compassion on them. He simply could not turn them away. Remembering that it is written, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And the second is like it, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. The intention has always been there. The intention is self-care. The intention is self-care. Abiding by the commandment to rest on the seventh day, it's not selfishness to do that. No, it's an act of love. An act of love, an acknowledgement of love for God, for neighbor, and for self. So why do we resist it so? Why do we resist a rest? Why do so many of us think resting means skipping worship and laying around the house and doing nothing? Why do so many of us look at Sunday as a catch-up day to finish doing what we neglected to do on the other 6 days? Why do so many of us view Sunday not as Sabbath day, but as merely one of the 2 days that make up the weekend? If we stop and pause for a moment, I'd like us to think about the most important thing you did last week. Most important thing you did last week. What was it? Can you identify a single action, duty, responsibility, or assignment that was for you the most important of all things you did last week? Now, many of us may have said, well, that'd be worship. That's the most important thing we did last week. That's okay. But how many of you really meant it? But the fact of the matter is, this hour is the most important of our week. Everything that happens flows from this point on and should flow from this hour. And everything that has happened in the week prior should now point to this hour. When I was 13 or 14 years old, I worked for one of our local funeral directors, cutting the grass at the funeral home and also at his home in the country. His cabin home was built on an extraordinarily steep incline, which made it more than a little dangerous. I worked hard for this man because, well, he kind of looked like an undertaker, so he was scary. But also, I wanted to impress him that I was working hard, that I had integrity. I wanted him to think of me as a good, hard worker so that I would never take a break. I would never take a break until he told me to. Well, one particularly hot summer's day, I think he forgot about me. So I kept on working in the scorching heat, and I didn't stop. And that's when it happened. I was cutting the grass on the steepest portion of the incline that led up to the cabin when suddenly I just didn't have the strength to lift it to go back the way I had come, and I slipped, and I fell. And the mower fell as well. I went tumbling down the hillside, tumble, bounce, shimmy to the left, shimmy to the right. I didn't have the guts to look up, but I knew I finally had to, and there, just 3 feet from my face, was a live lawnmower. From out of nowhere, the mower got caught on a rock. The mower got caught on a rock, and I experienced what some would say is coincidence. Others of us would say, wasn't that providential? No, that mower went straight down the hill, doing flips and flops and bouncing in the air before it jammed itself up against that rock and probably saved me. Now, much to my surprise, I didn't receive any sympathy from my funeral director boss. Instead, he chided me for not taking a rest when I had needed one so that I could conserve my energy. But nope, not a drop of sympathy, just a stern word about using common sense. Much of our cultural identification remains locked in the Calvinist work ethic, but it seems to be fading fast, for better or worse. We resist arrest because we don't want to be seen as lazy. We want people to see us as hard workers. We resist arrest because we have come to believe that it's all up to us, that if we don't do it, nobody will. You got to get it done. We resist arrest because we're so used to working that we don't know how to do or what to do with ourselves when we do get a day off. You rest for about 10 minutes in the chair and you say, I got to do something. Jesus said, the Sabbath was made for humankind, not humankind for the Sabbath. The Sabbath was given to us by God that we could rest and worship. The Sabbath was given to us to do what we need to refresh and rejuvenate, to remind us that we are not the ones in charge, and that some things, maybe even a lot of things, simply do not deserve the attention we give them. The Sabbath is our holy permission slip to take a day off, to rest and to worship. The Sabbath does not simply leave us to our own devices, wondering what to do with the whole day. There's more to it. No, the Sabbath calls us here to worship together and to enjoy the fellowship of one another and the gift of rest and relaxation. So hear the news. Hear the good news. Hear the good news and relax. You have God's permission to enjoy our worship and to rest this day. There is no need to feel guilty about putting work aside. Whatever we think absolutely has to be done can usually wait. The world does not depend on our coming and going, getting this or that done. Believe it or not, there are more important things in life than nonstop work. Jesus looks out over the crowd and has compassion because they were like sheep without a shepherd. But now the world is right again. The healing balm that comes with rest and relaxation announces that we are no longer beholden to our work, no longer enslaved to our vocations. No longer are we at odds with the world's insistence that our worth be measured by how many tasks we can complete in a day. Standing in love, in the love of God, teaches us to claim compassion. Compassion for our neighbors and compassion for ourselves. So let us be at peace in our coming and going. Rest, relax, exhale. Be claimed by the call to take some time to yourself and greet every new day, like it was the first. Amen.